Welcome to Late Line Learning. Have you ever imagined being stuck in the middle of a dangerous storm in the sea with your whole family fighting for survival? In today's video, we'll dive into the thrilling chapter of Class 11th, We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together, by Gordon Cook and Alan East. A story of courage, teamwork, and never giving up. So stay tuned with us because this chapter is going to feel more like a movie than a lesson. In July 1976, my wife Mary, son Jonathan, 6 years old, daughter Suzanne, 7 years old, and I set sail from Plymouth, England, to duplicate the round-the-world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. For the longest time, Mary and I, a 37-year-old businessman, had dreamt of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer, and for the past 16 years, we had spent all our leisure time owning our seafaring skills in British waters. Our boat Wave Walker, a 23-meter, 30-ton wooden hulled beauty, had been professionally built, and we had spent months fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather we could find. 1976 में गॉर्डन कुक अपनी वाइफ मैरी और बच्चों के साथ वर्ल्ड टूर पर अपनी शिप वेव वॉकर से निकलते हैं। उनका ड्रीम था कैप्टन जेम्स कुक की फेमस वोएज को रिपीट करना। इस जर्नी के लिए उन्होंने सालों तक सेलिंग प्रैक्टिस की और शिप को डेंजरस सीज के लिए स्पेशली प्रिपेयर किया। The first leg of our planned 3-year, 105,000 kilometer journey passed pleasantly as we sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. There, before heading east, we took on 2 crewmen, American Larry Vigil and Swiss Herb Ziegler, to help us tackle one of the world's roughest seas, the southern Indian Ocean. On our second day out of Cape Town, we began to encounter strong gales. For the next few weeks, they blew continuously. Gales did not worry me, but the size of the waves was alarming. Up to 15 meters, as high as our main mast. December 25th found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Despite atrocious weather, we had a wonderful holiday complete with a Christmas tree. New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather, but we reasoned that it had to change soon, and it did change, for the worse. At dawn on January 2nd, the waves were gigantic. We were sailing with only a small storm jib and were still making 8 knots. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, we could see endless enormous seas rolling towards us, and the screaming of the wind and spray was painful to the ears. To slow the boat down, we dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. Then we double-lashed everything, went through our life raft drill, attached lifelines, donned oilskins and life jackets, and waited. The first indication of impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. with an ominous silence. The wind dropped and the sky immediately grew dark. Then came a growling roar and an enormous cloud towered aft of the ship. With horror, I realized that it was not a cloud, but a wave like no other I had ever seen. It appeared perfectly vertical and almost twice the height of the other waves, with a frightful breaking crest. The roar increased to a thunder as the stern moved up the face of the wave, and for a moment I thought we might ride over it. But then a tremendous explosion shook the deck. A torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. My head smashed into the wheel, and I was aware of flying overboard and sinking below the waves. I accepted my approaching death, and as I was losing consciousness, I felt quite peaceful. Unexpectedly, my head popped out of the water. A few meters away, Wave Walker was near capsizing, her mast almost horizontal. Then a wave hurled her upright. My lifeline jerked taut. I grabbed the guard rails and sailed through the air into Wave Walker's main boom. Subsequent waves tossed me around the deck like a rag doll. My left ribs cracked, my mouth filled with blood and broken teeth. Somehow I found the wheel, lined up the stern for the next wave, and hung on. केप टाउन तक जर्नी स्मूथली चली, जहां उन्होंने 2 क्रू मेंबर्स लैरी और हर्ब को ज्वाइन कराया। लेकिन सदर्न इंडियन ओशन में एंटर करते ही उन्हें तेज़ तूफान और ह्यूज वेव्स का सामना करना पड़ा। वेव्स बोट के मास्ट जितनी ऊंची थीं, जो सबके लिए डेंजरस सिचुएशन क्रिएट कर रही थी। 2 जनवरी को वेदर बहुत टेरिफाइंग हो गया। सेफ्टी के लिए सबने लाइफ जैकेट्स पहनी और इमरजेंसी प्रिपरेशंस की। शाम को अचानक एक जाइगेंटिक वेव शिप की तरफ आई। वेव ने शिप को बैडली डैमेज कर दिया और नरेटर समुद्र में गिर गए, लेकिन लाइफलाइन की वजह से बच गए। Water, water everywhere. I could feel that the ship had water below, but I dared not abandon the wheel to investigate. Suddenly, the front hatch was thrown open and Mary appeared. "We are sinking," she screamed. "The decks are smashed. We are full of water." "Take the wheel," I shouted as I scrambled for the hatch. Larry and Hub were pumping like madmen. Broken timbers hung at crazy angles. The whole starboard side bulged inward. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins, and toys sloshed about in deep water. I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. "Are you all right?" I asked. "Yes," they answered from an upper bunk. "But my head hurts a bit," said Sue, pointing to a big bump above her eyes. I had no time to worry about bumped heads. After finding a hammer, screws, and canvas, I struggled back on deck. With the starboard side bashed open, we were taking water with each wave that broke over us. If I couldn't make some repairs, we would surely sink. Somehow, I managed to stretch canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across the gaping holes. Some water continued to stream below, but most of it was now being deflected over the side. More problems arose when our hand pumps started to block up with the debris floating around the cabins and the electric pump short-circuited. The water level rose threateningly. Back on deck, I found that our 2 spare hand pumps had been wrenched overboard, along with the forestay-sail, the jib, the dinghies, and the main anchor. Then I remembered we had another electric pump under the chart room floor. I connected it to an outpipe and was thankful to find that it worked. The night dragged on with an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering, and working the radio. We were getting no replies to our Mayday calls, which was not surprising in this remote corner of the world. Sue's head had swollen alarmingly. She had 2 enormous black eyes, and now she showed us a deep cut on her arm. When I asked why she hadn't made more of her injuries before this, she replied, "I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all." नरेटर को सिवियर इंजरीज हुई, फिर भी उन्होंने शिप का कंट्रोल संभाला। मैरी ने बताया कि शिप में पानी भर गया है और डेक्स टूट गई हैं। नीचे सब कुछ बिखर चुका था, लेकिन लैरी और हर्ब कॉन्टिन्यूसली पानी निकालने की कोशिश कर रहे थे। नरेटर ने कैनवास और टूल्स की हेल्प से डैमेज शिप को टेम्परेरीली रिपेयर किया। पंप्स ब्लॉक और शॉर्ट सर्किट हो गए, जिस वजह से डेंजर और बढ़ गया। लकीली एक एक्स्ट्रा इलेक्ट्रिक पंप मिल गया जो काम कर रहा था और उन्होंने पानी को पंप आउट करना कंटिन्यू रखा। पूरी रात सब लोग पंपिंग, स्टीयरिंग और मेडे कॉल्स भेजने में लगे रहे, लेकिन कोई हेल्प नहीं मिली। सीयू को सीरियस इंजरीज थी, फिर भी उसने कंप्लेन नहीं किया क्योंकि वो अपने पेरेंट्स को टेंशन नहीं देना चाहती थी। यह उसकी ब्रेवरी और मैच्योरिटी को दिखाता है। By morning of January 3rd, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. But we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the waterline, and on checking, I found that nearly all the boat's main rib frames were smashed down to the keel. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. We had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit, but Wave Walker wouldn't hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. I checked our charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers on the east. One of them, Isle Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean, but unless the wind and seas abated so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action. 3 जनवरी तक वाटर लेवल थोड़ा कंट्रोल में आया, लेकिन नरेटर को पता चला कि शिप का मेजर स्ट्रक्चर डैमेज हो चुका है। मैप चेक करने पर उन्हें नियर बाय 2 स्मॉल आइलैंड्स के बारे में पता चला। अब उनकी ओनली होप थी किसी तरह उन आइलैंड्स तक सेफली पहुंचना। On January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. We could not set any sail on the mainmast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart, so we hoisted the storm jib and headed for where I thought the 2 islands were. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuit, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. But our respite was short-lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hour, the wind was back to 40 knots and the seas were getting higher. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn of January 5th, our situation was again desperate. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, "Daddy, are we going to die?" I tried to assure him that we could make it. "But Daddy," he went on, "we aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and Mummy, Sue and I." I could find no words with which to respond, but I left the children's cabin determined to fight the sea with everything I had. To protect the weakened starboard side, I decided to heave to with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves, using an improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and two 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. That evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands. As the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks, we both felt the end was very near. But Wave Walker rode out the storm, and by morning of January 6th, with the wind easing, I tried to get a reading on the sextants. Back in the chart room, I worked on wind speeds, changes of course, drift and current in an effort to calculate our position. The best I could determine was that we were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers of ocean looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. While I was thinking, Sue, moving painfully, joined me. The left side of her head was now very swollen, and her blackened eye narrowed to slits. She gave me a card she had made. On the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people." Did they make you laugh? I laughed a lot as well. Inside was a message. Oh, how I love you both. So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it. कॉन्टिन्यूस पंपिंग के बाद उन्होंने स्मॉल सेल की हेल्प से आइलैंड की तरफ मूव करना शुरू किया, लेकिन वेदर फिर ख़राब हो गया। जोनाथन ने पूछा क्या वो मर जाएंगे और कहा कि अगर फैमिली साथ हो तो उन्हें डेथ से डर नहीं लगता। इस बात ने नरेटर को इमोशनली स्ट्रांग और डिटर्मिन्ड बना दिया। शिप को बचाने के लिए नरेटर ने इम्प्रोवाइज सी एंकर बनाया और वेव्स का सामना किया। वेदर काम होने पर उन्होंने और कैलकुलेशंस की हेल्प से अपनी पोजीशन फाइंड करने की कोशिश की। इंजर्ड होने के बाद भी सीयू ने पेरेंट्स को एक लविंग कार्ड दिया जो होप और पॉजिटिविटी से भरा हुआ था। I checked and rechecked my calculations. We had lost our main compass and I was using a spear which had not been corrected for magnetic variation. I made an allowance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean. About 2 p.m., I went on deck and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. If we were lucky, I told him with a conviction I did not feel, he could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. Then with a heavy heart, I went below, climbed on my bunk, and amazingly dozed off. When I woke, it was 6 p.m. and growing dark. I knew we must have missed the island, and with the sail we had left, we couldn't hope to beat back into the westerly winds. At that moment, a tousled head appeared by my bunk. Can I have a hug? Jonathan asked. Sue was right behind him. Why am I getting a hug now? I asked. Because you are the best daddy in the whole world. And the best captain, my son replied. Not today, John. I am afraid. Why you must be, said Sue in a matter-of-fact voice. You found the island. What? I shouted. It's out there in the front of us. They chorused. As big as a battleship. I rushed on deck and gazed with relief at the stark outline of Isle Amsterdam. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, the most beautiful island in the world. We anchored offshore for the night, and the next morning all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered as they helped us ashore. With land under my feet again, my thoughts were full of Larry and Herbie, cheerful and optimistic under the direst stress, and of Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours. Most of all, I thought of a 7-year-old girl who did not want us to worry about a head injury, which subsequently took 6 minor operations to remove a recurring blood clot between skin and skull, and of a 6-year-old boy who was not afraid to die. नरेटर बार बार कैलकुलेशंस चेक कर रहे थे क्योंकि कंपास लॉस्ट हो चुका था। उन्होंने क्रू को एक डायरेक्शन में स्टीयर करने को कहा, लेकिन उन्हें अंदर से कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं था। थोड़ी देर बाद जोनाथन और स्यू ने एक्साइटेडली बताया कि आइलैंड सामने दिख रहा है। नरेटर ने रिलीफ के साथ आयल एम्स्टर्डम आइलैंड को देखा, जो उनके लिए उस समय दुनिया का सबसे ब्यूटीफुल प्लेस था, क्योंकि उसने उनकी जान बचाई। So that was the incredible journey of courage and survival, from we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. I hope this explanation made the chapter super easy and interesting for you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Let Learn Learning for more fun and simple explanations. See you in the next chapter. Till then, keep learning and keep shining.